Your parents, teachers, and society have systematically programmed you to fail. From childhood, you were taught to seek permission, avoid risks, and accept limitations as reality. The education system trained you to be a compliant employee, not an independent thinker. Your family installed beliefs about money, success, and what's possible for people like you based on their own fears and failures. Every authority figure in your life had a vested interest in keeping you small. Predictable, uncontrollable. The tragic truth is that you're not struggling because you lack ability. You're struggling because you've been conditioned to struggle. The very people who claimed to want the best for you gave you the worst possible preparation for success. There's a powerful story about a massive circus elephant that stands tied to nothing more than a thin rope attached to a small wooden stake. This magnificent creature, weighing several tons and possessing the strength to uproot trees, remains perfectly still. Tourists watch in amazement, wondering why such a powerful animal doesn't simply walk away. The answer lies not in the rope's strength, but in the elephant's mind. As a baby, that same elephant was tied with heavy chains to an immovable post. Day after day, it pulled and struggled but could never break free. Eventually, it learned that escape was impossible. Now, years later, even though it possesses the power to snap that rope like a thread, the elephant remains prisoner to a belief formed long ago. The rope isn't holding the elephant back. The elephant is holding itself back. You and I are no different from that elephant. We carry invisible chains forged from past experiences, old failures, and limiting beliefs that once may have been true but no longer serve us. These mental chains have become so familiar, so much a part of our daily thinking, that we don't even notice them anymore. We accept limitations that exist only in our minds, convinced that our current circumstances represent the full extent of what's possible for us. The most dangerous prison is the one we build in our own minds. Unlike physical barriers, these mental walls are constructed from our interpretations of past events, other people's opinions, and our own inner dialogue. Every time we tell ourselves, "I'm not smart enough, I don't have what it takes," or "people like me don't succeed," we add another brick to this invisible prison. The tragedy is that we hold the key to our own cell. Yet we've convinced ourselves the door is locked from the outside. Consider how this plays out in your daily life. When an opportunity presents itself, what's the first voice you hear? For most people, it's not encouragement or excitement. It's the voice of limitation. That's too risky. It whispers, "You've tried things like this before and failed. Who do you think you are to want something better?" This internal commentary becomes so automatic, so convincing, that we mistake it for wisdom when it's actually sabotage. A comfort zone represents another form of self-imposed limitation. We tell ourselves we're being practical, realistic, or responsible when we avoid challenges and stick with familiar routines. But comfort zones have a peculiar characteristic. They shrink when not expanded. What felt adventurous last year becomes routine today. What seemed challenging yesterday becomes boring tomorrow. The very act of avoiding discomfort makes us more sensitive to it, creating an ever-narrowing circle of acceptable experiences. Think about the goals you set for yourself 5 years ago. How many of them did you abandon, not because they were impossible, but because they required you to become uncomfortable? How many dreams did you postpone indefinitely because the path forward wasn't completely clear? The truth is that every significant achievement requires us to venture beyond familiar territory, to risk failure, and to endure the discomfort of growth. Your self-talk programming operates like a computer program running in the background of your mind. Most people are completely unaware of this constant internal chatter, yet it shapes every decision they make. When you pay attention to your thoughts throughout the day, you might be shocked to discover how negative and limiting this internal voice has become. "I can't afford that. I'm terrible at this. Things never work out for me. I should be more realistic about my expectations. This programming didn't develop overnight, and it won't change overnight either, but recognition is the first step toward freedom. When you become aware that these thoughts are simply old recordings playing on repeat, you can begin to question their validity. You can ask yourself, is this thought helping me or limiting me? Where did this belief come from? What evidence do I have that this is actually true? The breaking point moment arrives differently for everyone, but it always involves a sudden clarity about the price of staying small. For some people, it comes during a moment of frustration, when they realize they've been living far below their potential. For others, it arrives as quiet desperation when they understand that their current path leads nowhere meaningful. Sometimes it strikes like lightning when they see someone else achieving what they thought was impossible for people like them. This moment of awakening feels both terrifying and exhilarating. Terrifying because it means acknowledging that you've been complicit in your own limitations. Exhilarating because it means everything can change starting now. The elephant can break free from its rope anytime it chooses. The question isn't whether you have the power. The question is whether you use it. Right now, as you absorb these words, your mind is probably generating resistance. It's offering reasons why your situation is different, why your limitations are real and justified. This resistance isn't your enemy. It's simply the old programming trying to maintain control. The very fact that you're experiencing this internal conflict means you're ready for something greater. You're ready to stop being your own prison guard and start being your own liberator. The journey from limitation to liberation begins with a single recognition. The only person who can set you free is you. Understanding why we hold ourselves back requires examining the sophisticated ways our minds work against our best interests. Fear operates like a master magician, convincing us that its illusions are reality. Most people believe they're being logical when they avoid taking risks, but closer examination reveals that fear has simply learned to speak the language of reason. I need to be practical, fear whispers through the voice of logic. This isn't the right time, it continues. I should wait until conditions are more favorable. Fear-based thinking presents itself as prudent planning, but its true nature becomes clear when you notice the pattern. There's always another reason to wait, another obstacle to overcome first, another skill to develop before you're ready. Fear doesn't want to stop you temporarily. It wants to stop you permanently. It achieves this goal by making delay seem reasonable and action seem reckless. The most insidious aspect of fear-based thinking is how it hijacks your natural intelligence. Your mind becomes incredibly creative at generating reasons why you can't succeed. It produces detailed analyses of everything that could go wrong, complete with statistics and examples from other people's failures. Meanwhile, it conveniently ignores evidence of others' successes and your own past victories. Fear turns your greatest asset, your ability to think, into your greatest liability. When you find yourself constantly researching without acting, planning without executing, or learning without applying, fear has likely convinced your rational mind to become its accomplice. The cure isn't to stop thinking, it's to recognize when thinking has become a substitute for action rather than preparation for it. The comparison game represents another psychological trap that keeps people locked in limitation. Social media has amplified this tendency to measure your worth against others' apparent success, but the urge to compare predates technology by millennia. When you constantly measure your progress against other people's highlight reels, you create an impossible standard that guarantees disappointment. What makes comparison particularly destructive is that it's based on incomplete information. You see others' results without understanding their struggles, their timeline, or their starting point. You compare your internal experience, full of doubts, setbacks, and uncertainty, with their external presentation of confidence and success. This creates a distorted perspective where everyone else seems to have advantages you lack. The comparison habit also shifts your focus from internal growth to external validation. Instead of asking, am I improving? You start asking, am I winning? Instead of measuring progress against your own potential, you measure it against others' achievements. This external focus makes your self-worth dependent on variables completely outside your control. Breaking free from the comparison trap requires redirecting your attention to your own journey. The only meaningful competition is between who you are today and who you were yesterday. Progress is personal, and everyone's path unfolds at its own pace, according to their unique circumstances, challenges, and choices. Perfectionism presents itself as high standards, but functions as sophisticated procrastination. Perfectionists convince themselves they're pursuing excellence when they're actually avoiding the vulnerability of being judged. They postpone action until they can guarantee success, which effectively means never taking action at all. The perfectionist mindset creates an all-or-nothing mentality, where anything less than ideal feels like failure. This binary thinking eliminates the middle ground, where most real progress happens. Life is messy, progress is incremental, and success comes through iteration, not perfection. When you demand flawless execution before you begin, you eliminate your opportunity to learn, adjust, and improve through experience. Perfectionism also magnifies the sting of criticism and setbacks. When your identity becomes attached to producing perfect results, any imperfection feels like a personal attack on your worth. This emotional intensity makes the perfectionist increasingly risk-averse, leading to safer and smaller choices over time. Consider Robert, a talented engineer who spent 15 years in the same position despite having ideas for innovations that could revolutionize his industry. His childhood programming taught him that mistakes brought harsh criticism from demanding parents. As an adult, this translated into an inability to present ideas that weren't completely developed, tested, and guaranteed to succeed, while his colleagues advanced by sharing half-formed concepts and building on feedback. Robert remained stuck, waiting for the perfect moment that never came. Robert's breakthrough came when he realized that his pursuit of perfection was actually a fear of judgment dressed up as professionalism. He began sharing rough ideas in small meetings, accepting that initial concepts are supposed to be imperfect. Within 6 months, one of his imperfect proposals became the foundation for a project that earned him a promotion and industry recognition. The authority figure syndrome represents another common limitation where adults continue seeking approval from parents, teachers, bosses, or society long after they've gained the capability to think independently. This creates a dependency on external validation that undermines confidence in personal judgment. Many people spend their entire lives trying to prove themselves to authority figures who may no longer even be alive. They make career choices to please parents, avoid risks to satisfy spouses, and conform to social expectations rather than following their authentic interests and values. This external orientation keeps them reactive rather than proactive, followers rather than leaders of their own lives. The path forward requires recognizing these psychological patterns and choosing differently. Awareness alone doesn't create change, but it provides the foundation for new choices. Once you understand how your mind works against you, you can begin working with it toward the success you truly deserve. Now that we understand the invisible forces holding us back, let's focus on the specific strategies that create breakthrough results. Success isn't mysterious or complicated. It follows predictable patterns that anyone can learn and apply. The difference between those who achieve their goals and those who don't isn't talent, luck, or connections. It's the consistent application of proven principles. The 80/20 principle revolutionizes how you approach personal growth and achievement. 20% of your activities produce 80% of your results. This means that most of what you do each day contributes very little to your success, while a small portion of your efforts creates massive impact. The key to breakthrough lies in identifying and focusing on these high-leverage activities in personal development. 20% of your limiting beliefs create 80% of your problems. 20% of your habits generate 80% of your success or failure. 20% of your relationships provide 80% of your emotional support and opportunities. When you identify these critical few areas and concentrate your energy there, you accelerate your progress dramatically. Huh? We have distrust. Most people scatter their efforts across dozens of activities, hoping something will work. High achievers do the opposite. They identify the vital few actions that create the most significant results and eliminate or minimize everything else. This focused approach might seem limiting, but it actually creates more freedom by producing faster, more substantial progress toward meaningful goals. Applying the 80/20 principle requires honest assessment of your current activities. Track how you spend your time for 1 week. Then evaluate which activities move you closer to your most important goals. You'll likely discover that you're investing enormous energy in low-impact activities, while neglecting the high-impact ones that could transform your life. Effective goal setting goes far beyond writing down what you want to achieve. Your goals must be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. The SMART criteria that transforms vague wishes into concrete targets. But the real power comes from adding personal accountability systems that ensure consistent progress. Specific goals eliminate the ambiguity that allows procrastination to flourish. Instead of, I want to be successful, you need, I will increase my income by 30% within 12 months by developing my sales skills and expanding my client base. This precision gives your subconscious mind clear instructions and helps you recognize opportunities aligned with your objectives. Measurable goals allow you to track progress and maintain motivation. When you can see concrete evidence of advancement, you stay encouraged during challenging periods. Measurement also reveals when you're off track early enough to make corrections rather than discovering problems too late. Achievable component doesn't mean setting easy goals. It means setting challenging goals that stretch you while remaining within the realm of possibility. Goals that seem impossible create discouragement and abandonment. Goals that seem too easy fail to motivate sustained effort. The sweet spot lies in goals that require you to grow, but don't require you to become someone completely different overnight. Relevance ensures your goals align with your values and long-term vision. Many people set goals based on what others expect of them rather than what truly matters to them personally. These externally motivated goals lack the emotional fuel necessary for sustained effort, especially when obstacles arise. Time-bound goals create urgency and prevent indefinite postponement. Without deadlines, goals become wishes that you'll pursue someday. Deadlines force decision-making, prioritization, and action. They transform abstract intentions into concrete commitments. Personal accountability systems multiply the power of goal setting. Share your goals with someone you respect and trust. Then schedule regular check-ins to report your progress. This external accountability creates positive pressure that helps you follow through even when motivation wanes. Daily disciplines represent the compound effect in action. Small, consistent actions performed over time create extraordinary results through the mathematical power of compounding. Just as money grows through compound interest, personal growth accelerates through compound effort. The key insight about daily disciplines is that their individual impact seems insignificant, which is why most people abandon them. Reading for 30 minutes daily doesn't transform you today, but it transforms you profoundly over months and years. Exercising for 20 minutes daily doesn't create fitness immediately, but it creates exceptional health over time. Success isn't about dramatic gestures or heroic efforts. It's about doing the right things consistently over extended periods. The person who writes 1 page daily for a year produces a 365-page book. The person who makes 5 prospecting calls daily for a year makes over 1.8 contacts. These small daily actions seem unremarkable individually, but create remarkable results collectively. Your environment plays a crucial role in supporting or sabotaging your success. The people you spend time with, the information you consume, and the physical spaces you occupy all influence your thoughts, emotions, and actions. High achievers deliberately design their environments to support their goals, rather than leaving these factors to chance. Surrounding yourself with growth-minded people elevates your own thinking and aspirations. When your peer group consists of people who challenge themselves, pursue goals, and support each other's growth, their attitudes become contagious. Conversely, spending time with negative, complacent, or pessimistic people gradually erodes your motivation and confidence. This doesn't mean abandoning friends or family members who aren't growth-oriented, but it does mean consciously seeking relationships with people who inspire and challenge you. Join professional associations, attend seminars, participate in mastermind groups, or find mentors who embody the success you want to achieve. Mental rehearsal programming represents one of the most powerful techniques for breakthrough success. Your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and real ones. When you repeatedly visualize yourself successfully achieving your goals, you program your subconscious to recognize opportunities, develop skills, and make decisions that align with these mental blueprints. Elite athletes have used mental rehearsal for decades to improve performance. Business leaders use it to prepare for important presentations and negotiations. You can use it to rehearse success in any area of your life, creating the neural pathways that support achievement before you even begin taking action. Knowledge without action remains worthless. You can understand every principle of success, memorize every strategy, and analyze every technique, but without implementation, information becomes nothing more than intellectual entertainment. The bridge between knowing and achieving is massive. Consistent action applied with unwavering persistence. The action bias separates achievers from dreamers. While most people wait for perfect conditions, complete information, or guaranteed outcomes, successful individuals develop a bias toward action even when circumstances aren't ideal. They understand that imperfect action beats perfect inaction every single time because action produces results, feedback, and learning opportunities that waiting cannot provide. This doesn't mean acting recklessly or without thought. The action bias involves taking intelligent action based on available information rather than postponing decisions indefinitely while seeking perfect certainty. When you have enough information to make a reasonable decision, delay becomes procrastination disguised as preparation. Consider how this plays out in real situations. Someone wanting to start a business might spend months researching every possible obstacle, studying every competitor, and perfecting their business plan. Meanwhile, another person with a similar idea launches a simple version, learns from customer feedback, and improves their offering based on real market response. The second approach almost always produces superior results because it's based on actual data rather than theoretical assumptions. Action bias also creates momentum that builds upon itself. Each action, regardless of its immediate outcome, provides information and experience that improves your next decision. This creates an upward spiral where action leads to learning, learning leads to better action, and better action leads to better results. Most people fear action because they fear failure. But this fear is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of failure's role in success. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's a stepping stone to success. Every failure contains valuable feedback that guides you toward what works. When you learn to fail forward faster, you accelerate your progress toward any goal. The key lies in redefining failure from a final judgment to useful feedback when something doesn't work as expected. Ask yourself 3 questions. What can I learn from this? What will I do differently next time? How can I apply this lesson to improve my approach? This shifts your focus from self-judgment to self-improvement, transforming setbacks into setups for future success. Thomas Edison famously said he didn't fail 10 times while inventing the light bulb. He found 10 ways that didn't work. This perspective allowed him to persist where others would have quit. Each failure brought him closer to the solution because it eliminated one more incorrect approach. The same principle applies to every area of life. The person who gets rejected by 10 potential employers is closer to finding the right job than the person who hasn't applied anywhere. The entrepreneur whose first 3 ventures fail has learned lessons that make their 4th venture more likely to succeed. The individual who attempts and abandons 5 different exercise routines is closer to finding one that works than the person who hasn't tried anything. Building unstoppable momentum requires understanding how the compound effect applies to action taking. Small, consistent actions create exponential results over time because each action builds upon previous actions. Success rarely comes from single heroic efforts. It emerges from the accumulation of many small efforts compounded over time. When you take one small action toward your goal, it becomes easier to take another. When you take actions consistently for several days, it becomes a habit. When habits compound over weeks and months, they create remarkable transformations that seem almost magical to outside observers, but feel natural to you because they developed gradually. This momentum principle explains why the hardest part of any worthwhile endeavor is usually the beginning. The first workout is harder than the 10th. The first sales call is more intimidating than the 100th. The first page of writing is more challenging than the 50th. Once momentum builds, maintaining progress becomes easier than stopping. Momentum also creates psychological benefits that fuel continued action. Each small success builds confidence, and confidence makes the next action feel more achievable. This creates a positive feedback loop where success breeds success, action enables more action, and progress accelerates naturally. Let me tell you about Lisa, a single mother of 2 who transformed her life by applying these principles systematically. 3 years ago, Lisa worked as a receptionist, earning barely enough to cover basic expenses. She felt trapped by circumstances: no college degree, limited skills, overwhelming responsibilities, and no time or money for improvement. Lisa's breakthrough began when she stopped focusing on everything she lacked and started taking action with what she had. She identified her 20% high-impact activities, developing valuable skills during lunch breaks and evenings, networking with successful people in her field of interest, and consistently applying for better positions even when she felt underqualified. She started with just 15 minutes daily learning digital marketing through free online resources. This seemed insignificant, but Lisa understood the compound effect. After 3 months, she had enough knowledge to help a local business improve their social media presence. This side project generated extra income and provided practical experience 6 months later. Lisa's growing expertise led to freelance opportunities that doubled her receptionist salary. Instead of increasing her lifestyle expenses, she invested in professional certifications and continued learning. Her daily discipline of improvement, combined with consistent action taken, created opportunities that didn't exist when she started. The momentum Lisa built through small daily actions eventually created major life changes. Within 18 months, she left her receptionist job to work full-time as a digital marketing consultant. Her income tripled, her confidence soared, and she became an example to her children of what's possible when you refuse to accept limitations as permanent. Lisa's transformation wasn't magic. It was the predictable result of applying success principles consistently over time. She identified high-leverage activities, set specific goals with deadlines, maintained daily disciplines, surrounded herself with growth-minded people through online communities and local meetups, and took action despite imperfect conditions. Most importantly, Lisa changed her identity from someone who things happened to into someone who made things happen. She stopped seeing herself as a victim of circumstances and started seeing herself as the creator of her future. This identity shift was perhaps the most crucial element of her success because it changed how she thought. what action she took, and how she responded to obstacles. Your personal declaration represents the final step in breaking free from self-imposed limitations. This isn't about positive thinking or wishful hoping. It's about consciously choosing the identity you want to embody and the future you want to create. Write down who you are becoming, not just what you want to achieve. Instead of, I want to lose weight, declare, I am someone who takes excellent care of my health. Instead of, I hope to start a business, state, I am an entrepreneur building something meaningful. This identity-based approach aligns your self-concept with your goals, making achievement feel natural rather than forced. Your declaration should be specific, present tense, and emotionally compelling. It should describe not just what you'll do, but who you'll become in the process. When your identity aligns with your goals, you stop fighting internal resistance and start moving toward success automatically. The person you are right now was created by the decisions you made in the past. The person you become will be determined by the decisions you make from this moment forward. You have the power to redesign your life, redefine your limitations, and recreate your reality. The only question is whether you'll use this power or continue letting life happen to you by default. Every limitation you've accepted, every excuse you've made, every reason you've given for not pursuing what you really want, these are choices, not facts. And because they're choices, you can choose differently. You can choose courage over comfort, action over analysis, growth over safety, and possibility over limitation. The elephant can break free from its rope anytime it decides to test its true strength against an illusion of captivity. The rope that's been holding you back exists nowhere except in your mind. And your mind is something you can change.